Hello and welcome to Talking Hoosier Baseball. Today is, we're recording this on Sunday, March 19th, 2023. I'm Carl James, joined by Cassidy Palmer and Chris Feeney. This podcast is going to cover a stretch of 9 baseball games played over 10 days. We were unable to do our weekly podcast, well, because we had a day between, we had that one day off and that just didn't work for our schedules. So we are doing another podcast that covers 2 weeks and in this case covers 9 games. The good news is Indiana went 8-1 over that stretch of 9 games to improve to a record of 13-7 on the season. Which is the most, not any longer. Iowa has now passed IU. Iowa has 14 wins now. Iowa has the second most wins and the third best overall record among Big Ten teams. Obviously, no conference games are included in that. So we're going to have some discussions around the what happened during that period of time, that stretch of 8 wins over 9 games in 10 days. So we're just going to have a little bit of discussion about that. So I will pass it over to Cassidy. What's on your mind, Cassidy?
Well, I kind of mostly focused on the most recent weekend. But one of the things that caught my attention during that Bellarmine weekend, the start of this 9 games in 10 days bit. One of the things that very much stood out was the base running of Cerny and Taylor, the two true, that's a tongue twister, 2 true freshmen who have been getting some decent time. Because they, in that 4th game against Bellarmine, there were one instance each where off the bat they both did a tremendous job reading the play while base running to I was going to say stretch a single to a double, but that's not really what they did. They were true singles, but they read it perfectly to just sneak into second base ahead of the throws to effectively steal a base right off the jump, get immediately into scoring position. And that's something that you can only pick up by lots of repetition, by doing it a bunch of times. So for a couple of freshmen to be coming in with that already is an amazing sign, especially this early in the season. But what I really looked at a bit more was the Morehead State series. I don't tend to put too much stock in midweek one way or the other, just because it's always funky. You're getting guys time. You're facing pitchers that you might not normally face. All of that good stuff. But I was intrigued looking at some of the statistics in the first and third games versus the second game, because that second game was insane. Just absolutely, anytime you're sending more than 9 batters to the plate multiple times in a game, your offense is humming and not even a question. And so looking at the first and third games, just glancing at my scorecards, I would have said, yeah, solid offense. Guys are getting on base pretty or being productive at least. Whether that's like a sac bunt, an RBI ground out, it could be those things too, but lots of productivity. They just didn't really result in runs as much. I know 6 is kind of our goal. We want to hit 6 at least. And in the first game, we did in that 10th inning. But I started looking at the number left on base. In both of those games, 12 runners were left on base, not counting whoever was on base in the walk-off situations, because if they're left on base there, that doesn't count. But 12 left on base, 6 of those in both games reached base with 2 outs already. That makes it so much harder. It makes it so much harder to get home if you reach base with 2 outs already. Even in that second game where the offense was humming, 9 guys were left on base. 7 of those got on with 2 outs. And even if you take out that crazy, really fun, all the home runs inning, it's still 8 left on base. 6 of those got on with 2 outs. So that's just something to keep in mind when you see a lot of production, but not necessarily a lot of runs coming off of that. A lot of that is reaching with 2 outs already or lots of small ball. We had innings of, like in this case, a single, a hit by pitch, a ground out to advance both runners, and then a fielder's choice to score. You're using 2 of those outs to score 1 run. With a lot of that more small ball play, you're gonna have more guys left on base. So that was the big thing that stood out to me was the high percentage of left on base that reached with 2 outs. Makes me far less concerned. And then that second game was just fun. All the offense. So
yeah, I'd say anytime we score 20, we're gonna have fun.
yes.
Well, unless we gave up 21, but luckily that was not one of those type of games.
No.
For me, it was definitely the late game execution that we've had has been real impressive because we've been down late in a bunch of these games and we've been able to flip the script late. You know, what was it? The Bellarmine game, 2 of the Bellarmine games, we were down late. I was like, what is going on?
Yeah.
And then going down early, right? There was the one where we were down by like 7-2 in the third or something. And we didn't get discouraged. We battled back. We came back there. And except for the Kentucky game, which was a ball game early, even though we got run ruled, that was actually a decent game for the first 3-4 innings. I thought the way we're playing late in these games, it shows you, are we playing the best competition? No, I understand that. But just to be able to keep your head and do what you got to do late and flip these games and come back and win them. And we got the 2 walk-offs, right? And that's obviously late clutch performances. So I think it's been a learning situation. Again, I don't know if we're coming back on better teams. You know what I mean? This competition has been what it's been. But the fact that we've had to get it together late, at least they did it.
Right. And the biggest part of it, 2 weekend sweeps. Like that is the most important part of all
7 games, not even 6, right? A 4 and a 3.
Right. It doesn't necessarily matter how you do it. It can be ugly. A win's a win.
Yep.
And then on the pitching side, real quick, the big thing that stood out to me was just the efficiency, the ability to limit them over the set of games. They were averaging fewer than 4 runs given up a game. Never gonna complain about that.
Yep. The biggest thing I saw was, the other thing is, we talk about the competition. These teams were better than their resumes would suggest. And I think these teams are going to end up with decent records that are going to be helpful to the overall RPI. Bellarmine in particular was a lot better than I think any of us expected.
Absolutely
Yeah.
did not expect 3 nail biters against them.
Yeah.
And that's what we got.
But it wasn't just the competition, because the first thing someone's going to come out and say is like, this week doesn't mean anything. They played crap competition and it doesn't matter. I disagree.
Matters if you lose. It matters if you lose.
Yeah.
Well,
you got to win them.
But more importantly but there are very noticeable signs when you play these low quality teams. You got pitchers who, all their pitchers are throwing 83 to 85 for their fastball. That was not the case.
No.
Both of these teams had pitchers throwing fastballs in the low 90s.
Mm-hmm.
This was not your bottom of the barrel mid-major team. These guys had experienced hitters who could hit. They had pitchers throwing heat. Their junk ball pitchers were locating their pitches. Defensively, probably something to be desired there, but that's that is very typical of this level of competition. But all in all, these were really good teams. And in talk in the case of
Moorhead,
thank you. So you talk about the case of Moorhead State. They had, they're both the preseason conference player and pitcher of the year are on that team. So at least the media in that conference expects them to do really well in conference with if you've got both of those players in place. And I looking at those teams, they did not seem to be, like they were massively outclassed by Indiana. And we know Indiana wasn't massively outclassed by either Auburn or Texas.
Right.
So, and I granted Texas is probably near the bottom barrel of the Big 12. Auburn doesn't look like they're going to be absolutely bottom barrel of the SEC.
No.
So, I mean, yes, we don't know for sure. Absolutely. But I think 7-game sweep of these two teams, I think means more. If people want to whine and complain about Kentucky, Indiana made a decision in the middle of these two series that that Kentucky game was the game that was going to be handed to the pitchers who have had struggles recently, and give them an opportunity to get right. But kind of knowing that wasn't necessarily likely, especially against what has proven to be a very effective SEC program. Yeah. So probably Kentucky is better than Auburn within the SEC at this point from what we're seeing.
Yeah.
I know they just won that series against against Mississippi State. I don't know if they quite swept it though. I didn't see today's score. So
I did not either.
Again, I'm not going to sit there and say I'm, worried about that failing to blow all 7 of the games out, I don't think is telling. Another piece of that is let's look at what Moorhead did at Tennessee, and the scores are almost identical, except for the fact that Tennessee, in the 2 games in which Tennessee only scored 6, the Moorhead didn't score any. But the other game, I mean, essentially how much Indiana scored just as much as Tennessee did.
Yeah.
And Tennessee is a real, honest to goodness,
though.
Legitimate offense.
Yeah. It also showed that we can, play good late in these games when we're down.
Yep.
I was impressed by that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Kentucky swept Mississippi State.
Oof.
And the last 2 games were not even close. The last game was an even more dramatic run rule, 17-3.
Ooh.
They did take extra innings to beat them on Friday.
Well, even then, with how cold it was, and Carly, you know that better than I do. With how cold that was, and again, this many games in this short of a time frame, I wasn't too upset about a run rule there. Fewer innings, we don't have to burn any more pitchers. Like,
yep.
Am I thrilled at the outcome? No, but all around, it, like I said, the midweeks don't particularly bother me.
Yep. Yeah, they put up 35 runs against Mississippi State. Now, granted, it was even colder.
Yeah.
And I'm sure those guys from Mississippi State are not used to that kind of cold. So that definitely played into the hands of Kentucky there.
The coach is used to the cold. Don't think.
Yeah, but we know he doesn't like it either.
No.
No, he doesn't.
Oh.
Again, you can only play your schedule. These are the teams that we had. And you're right, Carl. They had guys who could throw heat. The Sunday guy, Bellman, was good. He had us. We only scored 3. It was 1-0. I feel like for the whole game.
Yeah.
We had with the back-to-back doubles, I think it was, and we got the 1 run. But yeah, they pitched well. They did what they had to do, but we came back every time. And we walked you off twice, and whatever it was, Moorhead, and then you had to do a 23-5 game. So
yep.
We had a little of everything, but we had a whole lot of wins this past 10 days. So I'll take it.
And then look back to last year. What happened this time last year? Lost a series 1-3 to Xavier.
Yeah.
walking the ballpark, giving up 15 runs a game. Now, sometimes we'd score 14, so they were still ball games. But I mean, yeah, much different, much better execution, especially on the mound.
And then
I
really
think we have an honest to goodness Friday guy. We found our Friday guy with Luke.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, how good has he been? You know, we haven't lost when he's pitched. If he's thrown a pitch in the game, I don't believe we've lost the game. I believe it's 5-0. 5 games, all wins, and he's 3-0. So I think we've absolutely know we have our Friday guy. And if that's what we got out of the first, whatever it is, games, was it 15 games or something?
Yeah.
We've established that. We've established that Devin Taylor can play.
Yep.
Okay. We've established that Tyler Cerny can play.
Yep.
You know, we didn't know all this like 3 weeks ago.
Right.
So it's definitely, we've learned a lot from, you know, from Auburn, honestly.
Yep.
You know, now we go into the Big Ten play with more of a plan, with, I think, with the coaches knowing more what they have.
Yep. You can only go up against yourselves so often and get meaningful information out of it.
Yep.
So that's kind of where we're sitting. We do have a midweek game coming up against Indiana State. Indiana State is 8-9, but they do have the 20th best RPI in the country because they have played a pretty stout level of competition. Let me see what they've done at midweeks. They lost at Miami. They lost. Hold on. They won 2 midweeks against Southeast Missouri. They won in 10 innings at Illinois.
Ooh.
So yeah, that's their midweeks so far. So they've been pretty strong on the midweeks.
And for the whole year, they're or for the whole season so far, they're all their losses have come in against quad 1 opponents.
Yeah.
But then the only other opponents they've played are quad 4, and they're 6-0.
Yeah. So much like Indiana, you have won all the games against the teams you should have won games against, and yeah.
Yep.
And then obviously starting the Big Ten season against here at the BART against Ohio State. So we're going to start to actually really now see, okay, let's start seeing Big Ten teams play each other.
Yep.
Because it's really, really hard. And I know from just trying to go through these pick'ems, it's been really hard trying to determine, you know, who. It's not obvious at this point who is you know, who's doing well. I mean, I think Iowa has established themselves as a really good ball club. I think Iowa is the class of the league right now.
Yep.
But even then, I can't say that with absolute certainty.
Yeah. Yeah, and the team that was expected to be right up there in Maryland hasn't been.
What's funny is I disagree that was the expectation. I know that's what everybody said.
Right.
But I actually didn't just look at the list, but I actually read the actual previews that were in D1's previews.
Mm-hmm.
I did that first before I looked at their stacked ranking. And based on that, I said Iowa's the best team here. And then I would have looked at it and like they have Maryland winning the league. I'm like, guys, read your own article. Your own article made it clear that Iowa was going to be the best team.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like when the headline is completely different than from the story you're reading, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Although right now Rutgers is the best RPI in the conference.
Yes. Yeah, and you look at Rutgers. Yeah, they've played Well, the point is, they've played a gauntlet of. They've played a very helpful RPI schedule.
Yes.
Although I think that taking 2 of 3 at Mercer is pretty loud.
Yeah. 18th hardest strength of schedule so far.
Yeah, beating Georgia Southern. Basically, everybody they've played has won. It helped that their one canceled game was against Canisius. So
yeah.
Well, I mean, they won one game against at Campbell, and Campbell has just been crazy good.
Yeah.
The Camels, they're always good.
Yes.
I feel like.
Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, they've definitely shown it, but even then again, it's just a matter of, and obviously that's a veteran team, and you would expect a veteran team to be good early on.
Yep.
As opposed to like what Indiana's facing, which is trying to, especially on the mound, not just, I mean, yes, you've got some guys who've been there for a while, who've been pitching for a while at D1, but putting them all in the mixer together, trying to figure all this out. To go 13-7 in the first 20 games, even if some of them have been easy, I think is a pretty strong statement from Indiana.
Yep.
And I have a correction on that. Indiana has won the most games in the Big Ten, because I went to D1 when I first looked at this. I'm like, how did Iowa get 14 wins so quickly after last time I checked? It's because D1 is counting their non-Division I games.
Ooh, no.
So
didn't they lose one of those last year? I think they did.
Yes, they did.
Remember that.
But I went back to Warren Nolan, who does not count those. He only
Yep.
counts the D1 games, and they're only 12-3 in that.
Oh,
so
I see 13-3 now.
Might have won today.
maybe they don't have a final in today's game. Oh, there's
in Warren Nolan, I see 13-3.
because they are playing another game right now. But I have that as tied. They're tied with South Dakota State right now.
Oh.
And it may be that game is over and they haven't
updated it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would think a lot of people are focusing more on the brackets than the South Dakota State Iowa game.
Baseball game.
Their website will get updated eventually for that.
But like we said, we're going to figure this out once Big Ten teams start playing each other.
Yes. That's where it matters.
So I guess we'll go ahead and use that to segue into our picks for this week.
Okay.
Nice.
So
we're not picking, for those who don't know, we don't pick the IU series because, of course, we always pick IU.
Yep.
We pick all the Big Ten series, and, we tally it up at the end, and one of the four of us will be the winner, and one of the four of us will be last. I was last year. I believe, was it Cass? Were you the winner?
Yeah. I
mean,
don't remember.
That's
it was
how
right
I
down
remember
at the end.
It was you and Josh came down to the last series, if I remember.
Yes, but Cass won that handily, so it ended up being a 5-game victory.
Oh wow! But Josh probably took some chances.
Yeah, Cass was 32-11 last.
I wish I could do that well in brackets where I have actual money on it.
Nice. All right, you want me to start with my call? I got it.
Yep, go for it.
All right, so we got Penn State playing Michigan. I'm going to go with Penn State. They're 10-5. I think that's pretty good. It looks like Penn State has this Oderkirk pitcher. His name's Oderkirk. He pitches on Fridays. They got him from West Virginia. He seems pretty good. I'm going to see them taking that first one, and then maybe they'll sneak another one out there on Sunday and take the series. We got Nebraska versus Illinois. I don't really like Nebraska, but they're 9-2. Their last 11 games. I'm going to take them. I'm going to go Nebraska over Illinois, and then this was a fairly easy one. I'm going to go Michigan State over Purdue. And then, those are my three for the week. And Fairleigh Dickinson shirts are coming for those who want them. They're coming in the mail. If anyone wants to promote and support FDU, they are playing tonight later on. Maybe they'll win another game. But New Jersey School FDU, we'll let you know how to get a shirt if you want one.
Home field's always good for that.
Oh, yeah.
All right, Cass, what do you got?
So I am in the Penn State Michigan game. I am going the opposite. I am picking the home team, Michigan, because to me, one of the first things I look at is who's at home. It takes a lot for me to not necessarily a lot, but it takes a bit for me to overcome that as the default. And then also picking Michigan State over Purdue for the same reason, and it's Purdue. And then I am going to go with Illinois over Nebraska. I think they've played some significantly tougher competition so far. They've seen a bit more strong teams, and I think they can pull it out over Nebraska, even if it is at Nebraska.
All right. Well, you guys' picks have me with zero confidence now because my picks exactly match Chris's. I'm just afraid I'm going to start. I'm just starting 0-3 for sure.
No.
You don't want to pick my picks.
But I picked them ahead of time, and that was what I settled on was the same thing.
Well, we all agreed on Michigan State.
Oh, that's right. You're right. I'm sorry. You're right. We did agree on Michigan State. Yes, I did pick Michigan State. What I want to know is who at the Big Ten office decided that opening weekend was going to have 2 games in Michigan?
Yeah.
Someone who doesn't pay attention to weather.
Yeah.
Odd choice.
It just
Nebraska
seems like
makes some sense.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Indiana makes sense.
But yeah, it just seems like Michigan State. Really, we're going to do this. You're only going to have 4 games in the first week. Now, granted, and at Indiana, I agree with that too. Yeah. IU and Nebraska hosting, that makes perfect sense. But Michigan State doesn't make any sense. But okay.
And Minnesota, if they can get the nice football field.
Yeah. They played some games there already this year.
Yeah.
I went to that field. That's where the Jets played the Vikings. That place is beautiful.
So my thinking is I'm sorry. I don't think first year after the coaching change, I think Michigan is not good. And given the point Chris had made, Penn State's got a Friday guy. So I think Penn State wins that Friday one, and Penn State will figure out a way to win one of the other 2. I think Michigan State is much better this year, and Purdue is not. So and going up to Michigan State, I think that's easy. I was really coin flip turn between Illinois and Nebraska, and I kind of took Cass's other logic, which is that I think Nebraska is gonna hold it there at Haymarket Park. So
I kept going back and forth on that one too.
Mm-hmm. It's hard because Nebraska didn't get off to a great start, but then turned it around pretty quick. Yeah. 2 really good programs. I think they're going to be in the hunt. Both these teams are going to be in the hunt. So that's an interesting series to take a look at. Michigan, I'm sorry. I think Michigan's got a future. I'm confident Tracy Smith is going to do really good things at Michigan, but I'm also think it's going to take 3 or 4 years for that to happen.
Yeah.
All right. Well, now I think we'll go ahead and transition into red belts, which again, we're doing a 2-week grouping. So we have 2 sets of belts to hand out.
Yeah, we got a lot this time. It was the same thing that happened on that other one where we got to catch up. All right. So for the how do you say it? Bellarmine? That's what I've been saying.
Bellarmine.
That's right. Bellarmine. For the Bellarmine series, we're going to go offensively for the Alex Dickerson Award. Somebody who's currently hitting .434, which this late in the season is it's pretty wild. Phil Glasser gets it again. He had a 5-hit, 5 RBI game within that series, and he's just smoking hot. I mean, it's amazing what he's doing. He's got 52 total bases. The whole team has 300. So one guy has 20. That's 20%, Cass, right? You're a math person. One guy has 52 total bases. The whole team has 304. So, I mean, if that doesn't show you how much Phil has been producing, the next guy down is Brock with 35 total bases. So that's quite the difference between the 2 of them. So Phil Glass is going to get the offensive belt. For the pitching one, I kind of went off the straight and narrow, the obvious one, because I don't know. I was there Sunday and he seemed very impressive, and that's Evan Whitaker. Now, he had 2 bridge performances, as I guess they call them now in Major League Baseball, connecting the starter to the back end. They were both 8 outs. They were both 2.2 innings. The first game, he got it to, I believe it was Connor, right? And Connor ended up getting the win, and Crafty got the save, and then he came in and he did it again and got it straight to Kraft on out, and he got himself the win. He got his first D1 win. So he's been really good. The first performance, he had 2 Ks in the 2.2 innings. In the second performance, he had 3 more. He hasn't given up a run in either of those outings. So I went with him for the Joey Donato Award for the Bellman series. And for the defensive, I mean, the way that Sunday game ended, Tyler Cerny just had to get it for me. Because that ball, when it went up the middle, I know this is now 2 series ago. It's not fresh in everybody's mind, but, we started the 9th inning up 3-0. They hadn't done a thing. They start to rally. They got a couple of hits. Kraft has been solid. Was he at 5-6 saves already? So you're not really expecting it. You're just expecting Kraft to just mow through it and then let this game be over. But no, they had 2 guys already scored. They had base runners. The ball gets hit up the middle. Again, I don't know how he got to that ball, but he got there. He makes the throw. Yeah, it was the one hop. Brock made the nice, I don't know if you call it a scoop, but, the 2 high hopper he got there. And Cerny's been outstanding in the field. And so he's going to get the Tony Butler Award. So those are your 3 for the Bellman series. For the Morehead State series, Carl, I know we said you were going to do the Tony Butler Award, so I'll pass it quick back to you for that, because I didn't put an eye on one pitch with the time and the day switches. I didn't even get to one. I was all audio. So what do you got, Carl, for Tony Butler from Morehead?
For that, and it was really tough because Tyler Cerny was really making a case for that week as well. He had some fabulous ones. But I'm actually was swayed by Coach and his impression that Josh Pine's play on that sacrifice bunt in the last game basically saved the game. He made a major league style play that saved the game. But then you also add to it, though, and granted, Cerny was involved in this play, when we had the errant pickoff throw, and Tyler went back, got the ball, threw it all the way to third. But Josh Pine managed to catch that ball and tag that guy's feet when he was sliding in. So again, it was really close between Pine and Cerny, but I'm going to go with Pine for that.
I remember hearing Render's call we were talking about before we started, that there's passion in his voice. Somehow he made the tag. He was really into it.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is,
it had to be real impressive.
Yeah, the Cerny, though, had a really good tag too, though. It was the one at second base when that guy tried to was really bold and tried to stretch that into a double, and the throw wasn't even kind of expecting that. But Phillip read it well and didn't cut it off, let Cerny grab it, and Cerny, without even looking, put his glove over in front of second base so that the guy would slide into it.
I was just about to mention that. I couldn't see it. Again, same with Feeney of the time changes.
Yeah.
Hard to keep up with it, but I was going to mention that one from my scorecard.
Yeah, it's hard to keep Cerny out of that conversation. But again, I kind of come back to it was the sack bunt play that, a major league style, get that bunt, make sure you get the out on that bunt. And and Pine made the difference there.
All right. So then we got the offensive. So for the Alex Dickerson Award for Morehead State, we're going to go with the guy who tied the game, leading off the 9th inning, Devin Taylor. And it was the second home run of the game, right? You get your bottom of the 9th up when you're down. The minute that first out happens, I feel like the whole thing changes. I don't know what it is. There's just something about getting that leadoff walk or that leadoff hit. Taylor's like, Oppo, home run, gone. He didn't even worry about getting a base runner. He tied the game and let everybody take a breath that we weren't going to lose that game. Now, of course, then it was Brock, right, with the walk-off hit later. And that was to secure that first win. So Devin Taylor gets that one. And he
tied the game twice, though, in that game.
Right. Well, his first home run.
But both ones tied the game.
That's right. That's right. But it's a little different when you're losing in the bottom of the 9th.
Yeah.
That was obviously, it was great. It was, we don't have to worry about, are we going to sack them over? Are we going to get a hit? Nope. Right. I'm just going to tie the game. And we almost won it in the bottom of the 9th. We had a couple more base runners, right? So that's going to be for the Alex Dickerson Award. And he's hitting 412 himself. Now, he doesn't have as many at-bats as Phil Glasser does, but in the at-bats that he's gotten, he's hitting 412. So for this one, I'm telling you, it's his 3rd red belt. It's his 3rd win, and it's Luke Sennard. Another great performance. This one with the 13 Ks, 6 innings, 13 Ks. Every time he's pitched, we've won. We're 5-0 in games he starts. He's got 39 strikeouts for the season with just 6 walks. He has really, really stepped up above the rest, and we know who our guy is. And if you haven't seen it, go back to the post game that Carl did. Really good stuff from Coach about him. A little awkward stuff from him about him. I think he didn't want to really, I guess, fire up the batters or something like that. But he was basically explaining how he doesn't like hitters and he wants them off balance and he doesn't like them. That was pretty cool. So Luke's definitely our big Friday guy. He gets the Joey Donato award. And honestly, he's been reminding me of Joey Donato. Maybe not in stature, maybe not in size, maybe not in the stuff, but when he takes the field, we win. So that's how it always was with Joey Donato too. So it's Sonar, Taylor, and then thanks to Carl, we got Pine for the 3 awards for the 2 series. Maybe next week we'll actually only give out 1 series. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, but if you look at the stuff, I mean, I was impressed with the stuff.
Yeah.
I was actually very impressed with the stuff. His ability to locate. Now, granted, yeah, it isn't blow you away stuff. It's, 91, 93. But the way he's mixing that up with off speed, that mid-range off speed, that 85 off speed, yeah, it's been really good.
Well, those first few innings of, okay, bets on when the first non-strikeout out is gonna happen.
Yeah.
Like that. It's been a while since we've seen that kind of just confusion at the plate for other batters, for other teams.
Well, this is the other,
too.
the other thing is, in that stretch, he threw 1 curveball.
Oh, see, I don't get that on the radio broadcast.
Yeah, he threw 1 curveball, and that was, he did throw 1, but that was it. He didn't start heavily throwing his curveball until the second time through the order, and that's what Coach mentioned that afterwards. And I actually gone back and look at him, like, yep, they didn't completely save it. I'm sorry, I take that back. He did throw 2 of them.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they were both balls. He wasn't trying to throw them for strikes. They were just, hey, let's give you something else to look at. But he threw a lot of pitches. Those, I mean, it's one thing about strikeouts. Unfortunately, they take a lot of pitches.
Well, but even then, second inning, 3 strikeouts, 13 pitches.
Yeah.
Fourth inning, 2 strikeouts and a flyout, 10 pitches.
Yeah.
Fifth inning, that fun single not turned into a double.
Yep.
And 2 strikeouts, 12 pitches.
Yep.
I see no problem with that. Like, that's right in the range of what I would expect of any inning, let alone with multiple strikeouts.
Yep.
What do you throw? 80 pitches over 6 innings? I mean, that's
about 85.
That's great. And he wanted to go back out in the interview. He's like, well, I tried to go back out. They wouldn't let me.
Yeah. Yeah, they had made that decision while he was out on the field. So, but he threw 3 curveballs in that last inning. So, and he started throwing curveballs.
Yeah. Well, he also had a significantly longer bottom of the 5th wait compared to the rest of them.
Yep.
So.
Well, we're going to need him this weekend because the Ohio State Friday guy is real good. I was telling you guys about that before. Isaiah Coupe, his name is. His last game, he struck out 11 guys. So he's coming off a big performance himself. He's 3-1 with a 1.08 ERA. Not a big. You'll see the very different pitching when we see the two come out there every inning because he's just 6'1", like 190 pounds, soaking wet. But man, he's been getting strikeouts. Let's see, he had 98 Ks in 64 innings last year, and the team has won 6 in a row. It looks like that he's pitched in, going back, I guess, to last year because I don't think he's pitched 6 times this year. He really looks like he knows what he's doing. He's got the high, RPM curveballs. It sounds like it's a major league pitch. So, Friday night, we're scheduled for 6:00. I don't know if that's really going to happen with the weather. You never know, but that could be a fun Friday night at the BART with those two going at each other. Saturday's supposed to be 1:00 and Sunday's 12 noon for the rest of the series with Ohio State. But Friday night seems like that could really be the special one. The rest of their starters ERA drops, raise much higher after Friday. But this kid's got a 1.08 and he's 3-1, and I think it's going to be a fun matchup.
Yep.
All right. What other points do we have to make for these 2 weeks, if any?
Well, my big one, like I said when we started, was the late game execution.
Yep.
To add on to that, you touched on it with the really spectacular defensive plays, and I can't remember too many ones where we flubbed it. So, we were going above and beyond with that. So that's good to see. It's been fundamentally sound from what I can notice. Again, it's harder on the radio.
Yeah.
But it really, even the way you just described that with the tag, if he didn't look, somebody yelled at him to tag. So obviously they're talking to each other out there. I like seeing Matt Ellis's back come around.
Yep.
I think he's going to be a big piece because, honestly, we expected more, right? But now it's coming, right? The double in Kentucky, the home run is part of the 5 home run inning.
Yep.
I don't even think we even mentioned that, right? We played 9 games in 10 days. We go over the 2 series, and we don't really even talk about how we get 5 bombs in one inning. That was pretty wild. So, there was a lot. There was a lot of different things between the walk-offs and stuff, and I'm content. I feel satisfied. I feel like we have learned things, and I'm excited for the Big Ten season.
Yep. And kind of going the other way for me, it's the pitching that's so showing so much more promise compared to the same point last season. And that combined with the offense, because even though it's been largely lower scores, there have been a few, 20 something runs, but even when it's lower run output, they're producing. They are getting on base. They are hitting. It's not as much strikeout, ground out, death by 1,000 cuts type of stuff.
Yep.
And so that has me not particularly worried at all.
Yep.
I like going into Big Ten play.
Cool. All right. Well, that'll do it for this edition of Talking Hoosier Baseball. We will have our pick'ems up on the site, including Josh's pick'ems, which we'll find out here pretty soon what his pick'ems are. I'll have those up on the site soon. And hopefully we'll be back to a kind of normal schedule. So we've got the 4 games this week, and then should be back to kind of a normal schedule and discussing each week of Big Ten play going forward. So for Josh Bennett, Cassidy Palmer, and Chris Feeney, I'm Carl James. See you at the BART.